eggs, about maybe cup and quarter, and then a cup of milk. And we took 4 eggs and mixed all that together to make our cream, our base for our bread pudding. And you're gonna kind of do it sort of like what you do for French bread, but it's gonna be a little thick because of the heavy cream. And then the other thing, you're gonna add some lemon juice, you're gonna add some vanilla extract, and then some nutmeg, and then about a cup to 1/4 cup, and a 1/4 cup of sugar. And so that will be the consistency there. And I've taken some brioche breadcrumbs, which is a very light bread, and we're going to layer that in here. I'm going to move this over so you can see, and we're going to layer that in here. Then after that, you can ladle this in, but we want butter in between each layer. I'm going to grab that. So you're going to take some butter, and you just break those little pieces off in here like so. And that begins your bases here, okay? And you want to make sure you have, and this is a stick of butter. So for 1 cake pan about this size, this much butter is pretty good. So we're going to take this, and we're just going to pour our heavy cream, our custard rather, over, and you're just going to allow that to kind of absorb and soak into each of the layers, okay? And as that's soaking, you don't want any piece of the bread to not have some custard absorbed into it, because it will dry out. And then you do want some pieces where there is no custard, so it kind of gives it some texture and some depth. So we're going to layer in some more bread, we're going to layer in some more butter, and we are putting this in here as we speak. Alrighty, and then I'm going to take more of our cream, and I'm just going to let that rest for a minute. Do a little press so we can give it time to soak up all of that. And you want this to sit probably 10 minutes maybe before you put it in the oven, maybe 15, so that you make sure that it really absorbs in the bread, okay? So we're gonna add some more of the bread, and then we're gonna get this, and you want to pay close attention to your corners. You wanna make sure you don't miss any detail. There's also one other thing we're going to add to this, and we're going to add some cranberry to the top, because I don't care for raisins, but I do care for cranberries. It adds a texture, like a dimension and flavor to it that I don't think raisins do. It kind of gives it a little bit of the briny bitterness, but also you have your the depth that you want. Okay, so I'm gonna put a little bit more butter on top of this. And then one thing that I forgot to mention to you, you do want about a teaspoon of salt in this, so I'll just sneak and add that to this. But you want a teaspoon or so of salt because that actually helps round off some of the sweetness to that. So we can do that when we put our cream on the top, because there's going to be like a creamy icing that goes into this, so we can mix that in at that time. But generally you want about a teaspoon of salt, maybe half a teaspoon of salt, to kind of balance out the sugar. Okay, and so we're going to put this over to the side, and then we'll be right back. We're going to put this in the oven and then let you see kind of where it goes from there. Okay, so we're going to clean up and then we'll be right back after this. Alrighty, we're back. So I'm gonna go ahead, it's been about 10 or 15 minutes now. We've gotten cleaned up here, and now we're gonna go ahead and get those into the oven. And then we'll go right into our chicken. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and pop these into the oven. Okay, that's gonna take about, I wanna say, it's about 45 to 50 minutes for it to total cook time. Okay, so our next thing is I've got some pans heating here, and we're going to put our chicken right in it. And I'm going to crank this up to about 325. I'm going to get some oil because we're going to brown our chicken breast and our chicken pieces before we start. So I wanted to make sure that we had those things going. I wanted you to see it, so we're going to do the chicken here, and then we're going to do vegetables and things over on the other side there. So for right now, I'm going to take, this is a pre-roasted chicken. Now you can go and get store-bought if you want, but as you can see, it's a rather small one, but it'll do for what we're trying to accomplish. And I want to brown this a little bit. The whole chicken is going to go into our meal. So what I'm doing, we're going to do two different things. We're going to make chicken soup. We're going to make chicken soup tortellini, or chicken tortellini soup, and we're going to do a chicken pot pie. So I'm sorry, that's three meals, and it's all based on the same cooking principle. So this is going to go in here, and as you can see here, or may hear, that is grilling very nicely, or that sound is already started. So we're going to do that. And the other thing that I want to start is I'm going to go ahead and put our mushrooms in the other pan. I'm going to put some in here as well because I want that chicken flavor. But mushrooms will be the basis for what we're doing here. And I'm going to take some of that. That's going to go here. And we're going to let those cook down. And then I'm going to take that and we're just going to cover that with mushrooms. Okay? And that's up to about 325. Let's put these over out of the way. Another thing that we're going to do is a bechamel sauce, because that's what's we're going to use some of that in our chicken tortellini soup, and we're going to use that as part of the basis for our chicken pot pie. Okay? So I'm going to move that oil over, and we will start with some more things here. I wanted to show you all a couple things here. And I'm going to go ahead and put the carrots in now because those will take the longest. So we're going to do carrots, mushrooms, and then I'm going to add, this is our basis here, celery, it's got bell peppers in it, and some onions. So that's another thing that you can also put in here. And I want to just scoot that over a little bit so you can see what we're doing. I'm just going to let that. So looks like we're going to need a little bit more oil in this to really get this down. And then I can cover that while that's cooking. But this I'm going to go ahead and put in here because I'm working on two things at once. see this. So I'm going to have this come in here slightly, and we're just going to get that going. Now you need your fire up to kind of medium high. And while that's cooking down, I'm going to add, let that just cook down just a little bit. Alrighty, so I'm going to move this out of our way. And slide that over to the side. Not really needing that at the moment. And then you'll pull this closer so you can kind of see what's going on here. Okay? Now, what you really want is you want that to brown really nice. And usually what I do is I remove like the backbone and all of that, but we're just gonna have all this in there at once. So I'll pull that aside. But see how that's browning really nicely there, that breast? We're just gonna flip that over. And those will be browning very nicely. These mushrooms. And these are going to cook down. And they render a really good flavor. A lot of flavor. Okay. I'm going to check on something and I'll be right back. Alright, so we're back. Now, what we're going to incorporate into this, I've got some oregano here. I've got some basil, chopped onions dried. This is paprika, smoked paprika, and that's some black pepper and some salt, sea salt. So we're just going to put a little bit of that in here. Just a little. A little bit of that. And then a little pinch of each one of those. And just let that develop. We're also going to add this to the other pan. And this is really, really smelling really nice. It just smells awesome. That paprika, you can really smell the smokiness coming out of it as well. Okay, I'm going to put some of this over in our pot. Pinch of each. All right, the rest of that we'll save for the end. But we've got a bit more to do. And then in a minute, after I transfer this over into that pan, we're going to do our bechamel sauce in this. Because I want that nice flavor from the chicken and all of that in here. Okay. So we're gonna let this reduce a little bit. These mushrooms cook down some, almost kind of until they become kind of glossy. And as you can see, they're getting a little glossy here. Let's check on this. Okay. So one of the other things that we're going to do is some artichoke hearts. I love artichoke hearts, and especially in this type of meal. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to put, this is probably about a cup to maybe a cup and a half. So you're going to put all of that in this, less the juice. And then you hold the juice back to build the flavor if you need to. Okay. That's going to be delicious. All right. And right now, we're just building flavor. Okay. Another thing I'm going to take is, and I just take these and I just smush them. Using this is fine. We're just going to take all of these and just kind of, I just kind of break them up a little bit because I want the flavor and the brininess of these in our base. And as you can see there, and I'll just take all these back out and incorporate that into the rest of our meal. Into the rest of our base. This is coming out wonderful. Really, really nice. And I'm going to just turn that up just a little bit. All right. So I'm going to take all of this and we're just going to fold this into our, this is all of our oregano, our pepper, and seasonings, and we're just going to let all of that just develop in there nicely. And you could actually cook that covered. You could actually cook that covered so it'll reduce and become really, really nice in there. I want that to cook down just a little bit more before we add our other portion to this. And this is some more carrots and some general things. But I'm going to prepare our next, start working on our next thing here. So I'm going to cover that. And then we will be preparing for our next meal. So you guys hang on, we'll be right back, and then we'll get started on our next cooking thing here. All right, and you don't want lumps with this. You want this to be very, loose and all of that. We want to make sure that everything is incorporated, everything is just coming together nicely. And it's almost like a roux or doughy texture. So now, what I'm going to do is take some of the cream and stuff that I mentioned, and I'm just going to introduce this in here gently. to take a little bit at a time and just kind of work that in. Okay. I'm going to let that. All right. So we've got all that in. And we're just going to take our time with it. And it may take some moments for everything to incorporate and all of that. But you want to, once this is done, it's going to really take your chicken pot pie to the next level. All right, you may want to crank it up a bit. Okay, while that's coming to its boil, let's see. So I'm going to take a few moments. I'm going to check this, get this ready to add our tortellini, and we'll be right. Alrighty, we're back. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to make the bechamel sauce while both of our different versions are cooking. This is going to be our chicken tortellini soup, and which is boiling vigorously. And the other one to the front of me is going to be our chicken pot pie. So each one of them is going to be a little bit different. Our chicken pot pie is going to have potatoes and carrots and celery and onions in that. And then our tortellini will have, of course, the tortellini and the chicken. I've already taken some time to remove the chicken bones and all of that out of that. So now all we have is just the chicken, you know, the leg, wing, and breast and back meat left to deal with, to incorporate in our meals. In each one, we've separated the chicken. So a half chicken went into the other, half chicken went into the soup. I've already preheated our pan. So what we're going to do is put some oil, and we're going to crank this up just a little bit. So I've got some extra virgin olive oil, and you can use butter to make your bechamel sauce. I personally prefer to use the oil, actually. And while that's coming to temp there, or heating up a little bit more, I'm going to take some water, which is just some basic warm water, and we're going to add that into that. And if you can see this, let's see. I'm going to make it so you can see it. That is just looking wonderful. Looking wonderful. I wish you could just really taste it. But let me just, since this is domestic chef, I wouldn't be right not showing this to you. Look at that. Just look at that. Okay. So we're going to pour about a cup to a cup and a half of water in that. And that will take care of all of what we need at this point. Okay. Our tortellini will be coming up here. Now the other thing that I want to, for you to remember, you do need to add just a little bit of tomato paste. You can use whatever brand that you want of tomato paste. I have a particular brand that I use. Chinto is the one that I use. But you can use any other brand that you choose, and that gives it a really, really nice texture, flavor, whatever you want to call it. So we've got our artichoke hearts, we've got our olives, we've got our mushrooms, all of that coming together nicely. And then there's some celery in that. What I'm going to do in the meantime, because we did not add this into that, and I do want to have just a bit of celery in this, I'm going to remove the bad sections here. And we're actually going to keep these leaves, because I love putting celery leaves in this. And I'm just going to chop that up just a little bit. Or sprouts, celery sprouts, whatever they're called. And let's see here, just cut that piece off there. And we just get a little bit of that in here. I love the flavor of it. And you could use leeks in this. Normally I use leeks when they're in season. And that goes, it has a celery texture, but leeks have like a licorice flavor to them that I love. So we're gonna just add. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna, our bechamel sauce is cooked very nicely. It's almost like the texture of gravy. And we're going to go ahead and add some oregano, some black pepper, some of the basic things that we added in our other soups. And then one other element is some Parmigiano cheese. Okay, so I'm going to put that in here. And that will give it a creamy texture, as you can see. And then this is going to go into our chicken pot pie so that we can incorporate all of this goodness into that pan. And then we're gonna put that together. Okay, so we're just gonna let that simmer, and then we'll get set up for our chicken pot pie. We're gonna put that together in just a moment. Let me turn that down. While we're waiting, the other piece that we're gonna add, I'm gonna go ahead and put in our tortellini for our tortellini chicken soup. And then we just stir that along. And as you can see, look at that beautiful green color. It's got spinach and basil, oregano, and all that in there. So we're going to allow that to cook. And that's probably going to need to cook for about 15 minutes with the tortellini in that. And then we'll be able to serve that up. Okay. So while that's simmering, we're going to get over to our other counter here, and then I'll show you how to put your pot pie together. All right, we're back, and now we're ready to assemble our chicken pot pie. So I'm going to take some of the chicken pot pie that I have reserved, and I'm just showing this to you for convenience. And we're just going to put that in our pan, our cooking pan here. Just going to scoop a little bit more. Now, what I want to do is take some of our bechamel sauce that I told you about, and you're just going to work that in, because that's what's going to be the basis for the chicken pot pie. And you may need to add a little bit of cream or water, or you can add some cream to it, but I'm just going to kind of mix it in there a little bit. Alrighty, so we've added our bechamel sauce to our pot pie. We have a nice pan here that we're going to put this in. And I have some store-bought crust that we're going to use, because I mean, you could make it yourself. It's pretty easy to make a crust, but we're just going to use a store-bought here. And what I'm going to do is just layer this. I personally, so that nothing goes to waste, I tend to fold those corners in, or roll them in rather. And I like that nice, neat looking edge. And then we're going to roll this under like so. And we're going to do that for each side. See? It looks like a neat little package. I don't put crust on the bottom of it. I just personally prefer not. I like the crust on the top. And we're going to take a fork. As I said earlier, we have taken our chicken pot pie. We put our crust over it. We put a egg wash over it, you know, have our little decorations in it. And now our bread pudding is ready to come out the oven. back. Butter there. All right. And now our chicken pot pie will go into the oven. That's going to take probably 35 minutes or so to bake. And as soon as that comes out, we'll wrap up, we'll have everything together, and then we'll go from there. See you in a few. Alrighty, we're back. We're getting ready to take out the chicken pot pie. And I can't wait till you see this. Oh my goodness, that's beautiful. Just beautiful. Look how wonderful that crust looks on the top there. Let's see if we can get in here. Just look at this. Look at it. Just delicious looking. Alrighty. So over here, I've got the bread pudding, and we've got our chicken tortellini. You know what our chicken soup looked like, and we converted that to chicken pot pie. So we had 3 meals in one. The chicken soup just did not have the tortellini. So we've got these things going on here. I am going to taste this for you to make sure that it's okay, because that's what chef's supposed to do, right? All right. And I am going to just take, since you can't eat it, I will eat it for you. Let me see here. That is delicious. All right. And of course, it wouldn't be right if I didn't taste some of this chicken pot pie here. OMG, that looks good. And normally you would allow this to cool down, but we're just going to go for the gusto. Okay? Don't leave none of that crust out of there. Okay. Good old bechamel sauce. And really what I want to taste is the crust. I'm going in for a second bite of this. Those artichokes and the olives, and then I sprinkled a little bit of Parmigiano cheese that had it just brought something to it. Now we're diving into this. And then we'll taste our bread pudding too. Excuse me. I have a little sample. Trick is cold water. Let's see if that does it, so I don't burn my mouth. Excuse me. Oh. You have no idea how good this is. It's creamy. It's just everything that you want in a pot pie. Well, that is so creamy. That's our show for today. Thank you for joining us, and happy cooking. That's good. Oh boy. Hot. I should have done that.